welcome back to the Fallon Frequency Podcast, your space for that alignment, expansion, and unstoppable energy. I am your host and mindset mentor, Fallon, and I am so excited to have you here today. So today we are diving into something very essential for your growth journey. I feel like everything I talk about is pretty essential, but this is going to be one of those less glamorous, let's say, parts of the process. And today we're going to talk about limiting beliefs. Now, this work, it is very deep. It is very real, and if you are really serious about expanding into that next version of yourself, it is a non-negotiable. Why? Because rewiring your mindset, your subconscious beliefs, your identity, your self-talk is at the core of everything that we do here. That is the work, that is the mission, and if you've been hanging out with me for a while now, you already know. You know, we are here for that energy, and we are here for that alignment, expansion, and of course, up-leveling. We're here for all of it, really. So today, I want to shine a light on two specific limiting beliefs, ones that I've personally had to move through, and that I've seen come up time and time again with these high-achieving go-getter women that are in my world. And chances are, if you're listening to this, you might be holding on to these too, and you might not even realize it. But once we do bring them to awareness, bring awareness to them, that didn't make sense, they no longer get to run the show. So it's time for us to strip away the old programming, quiet the inner narratives that have kept us playing small, and reframe them so we can move powerfully towards our next level. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first limiting belief that I really want to call out here and shine that light on is one of the most common and I would say pretty damaging beliefs I have seen in really ambitious, heart-led women. And that belief, my friends, is that money is bad, that it's somehow wrong for us to want more, and that wealth is reserved for those types of people that you're just not one of them. But let's go ahead and get one thing straight right now, okay? Money is energy. That's it. That's all. Period. Done. End of story. It's not evil. It's not corrupt. And it's not a measurement of your worth. And I want to be very clear here. It is not selfish to want more of it. More money just means more options. It means more impact. It means more generosity. It is more of you fully fucking expressed. So let's stop shaming the desire for more and start owning it. Money amplifies who you already are, okay? If you're a good person, intentional, if you're generous, loving, more money just turns that volume up. You get more freedom, there's more generosity, there's more aligned impact. And to me, that's even more reason to receive it, to call it in, to circulate it, and allow it in your world without that guilt or shame. Because I don't know about you, but I definitely want more of that in this world. And I have a feeling if you're listening to this, so do you. So I really want to go ahead and unpack this. This belief has been kind of concreted in my mind for a long time for many different reasons. And the limiting belief that wealth is bad or that money is like evil is something, like I said, I've carried for most of my life. And if you're anything like me, if you're purpose-driven, if you're a doer, if you're a go-getter, it's probably been lurking in your mind too, even if it's like the most subtle way. So I want to take it way back, okay? I was raised Catholic Christian, and while I am so grateful for the connection it gave me to the divine and the grounding principles I was taught, I always kind of felt like I was straddling like two different worlds. Now, I do consider myself a very deeply spiritual person, but I wouldn't say I'm very religious, and the conflict with this money being evil is kind of, this is where it really began. You're kind of being taught that money was like temptation and that wanting wealth was like worldly. Like success could easily become pride, and pride was a sin. So there was all these conflicting things that were pointing kind of like in a very negative lens to money. And I'm sure some of you have heard that saying, money is the root of all evil. But the thing is, if you actually do your own research and you jump into these things, which I have done, it's not even the quote from the Bible. That's not what it says. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. There is a huge difference there. One is about obsession, the other is like about neutrality. And yet we carry this wrong version in our heads. We might have heard it one time, but we carry it around for our lifetime. And guess what? It's not the ultimate truth. And then we've got society playing a role here, okay? Where wealth, for some reason, gets associated, with greed and corruption and being selfish. So we're kind of, without even realizing it, taught to resent the rich, or feel like we're morally superior for struggling. It's a really weird thing going on. And then, of course, as well, there's the spiritual circles, the conscious communities, where even talking about money can feel like this betrayal of being pure. And for me, this belief was coming at me in every direction, okay? I mentioned my childhood, the childhood religion, to me even working in yachting, okay? I was surrounded by billionaires where, let's be honest, a lot of that wealth I saw was not exactly conscious or intentional. It was more flaunted. Some of it could have been a bit misused. And there was definitely ego in the driver's seat there. So that made me, in my journey, swing completely to the other side of the pendulum. I ended up leaving this billionaire world and I moved to the beautiful Byron Bay, barefoot, in the ocean every day, surrounded by healers and people living off the land and these beautiful spiritual souls who really, money wasn't really ever a part of the topic. Because in that world, money's like taboo. It's like irrelevant or something. It's like somehow unspiritual to care about your finances when you can, grow your own fruit and live off the land. And I get it, both worlds really did teach me so many things. But what happened was I eventually realized that neither extreme reflected the woman I was becoming. I had to get really, really honest with myself. The identity that I had been clinging to wasn't really truly serving my highest purpose. So I had to get, radically honest. Who was I actually becoming? What version of me was still clinging to old stories that weren't even mine? What identities did I need to fall away so I could step fully into this next level version of myself? And the truth for me, I wasn't here to ever play small, okay? I have always been here to help others. That has always been in my blood. I have always wanted to make an impact. And that version of me that does that, guess what? She's not broke. I lived a very exciting and extravagant life, and I still am. And I've had this unique experience of living on both ends of the spectrum. I have been surrounded by extreme wealth, the yachts, the luxury, the excess, but so much of it was disconnected from purpose and from people and from impact. And it really did look good on the outside, but it felt really hollow on the inside. And I've also done the other, the opposite end. I've immersed myself in a deeply spiritual, grounded life, very intentional, very heart-led, very conscious. But if I'm being honest, at the time, I was just getting by. It was like I was almost avoiding money or resenting it at times. And it didn't feel right either. And here's what I've realized. Neither of those versions of myself was my ultimate truth, okay? I wasn't born to choose between impact and income. I was not meant to detach from my purpose in order to make a profit. I wasn't here to just get by. I truly believe we're all here to thrive, to create, to give, to lead, okay? To be wealthy and deeply intentional. I didn't want to play small and call it humility. Like when my soul came here to serve thousands of people, it's like this mentality, like I do not want to just make ends meet. I want to, buy the organic groceries and treat my family when they come to visit and live in alignment with the life that I've been given. Making that ends meet was never part of my standards. And now that I've created this level of freedom, this privilege that I've earned, I refuse to feel guilty about it. I want, like I said, to buy the organic groceries, to treat my family, to cook beautiful, nourishing meals with fresh produce. I bring up produce because, it's pricier to eat healthy, which is fucking crazy to me. Living fully and freely in alignment with the life I've been giving. Like I'm living now in this time, in this reality. So why wouldn't I make it mean something? That version of me, okay? Me, now. I'm not burned out. I'm certainly not dimming my light anymore. And I'm definitely not apologizing for wanting more. Because here's what I know. Playing small doesn't serve anyone. Keeping yourself stuck doesn't make you noble. It actually makes you unavailable for the life that's been calling you forward. So, let's do a little reframe here, when we're talking about wealth and money and it not being evil. Wanting more, like I said, it is not selfish, my friends. It is sacred. Because when you have more, you give more. That is the reframe. That is the shift. That is the truth. You treat yourself, first, overflow, abundance, that's what I'm all about over here. You also, though, are able to support others, okay? It's like you're supporting that barista's paycheck that makes you that delicious almond milk latte. You get to tip generously because you feel like it. You buy this beautiful organic and support sustainable farming. You donate to causes that matter to you. And guess what? You invest in people and dreams and liberation, okay? It is not about hoarding wealth. It is about circulating it. And circulating it intentionally. Money is a tool, it is a mirror, and it is a megaphone. It does not change who you are, it reveals you. If you are a heart-led, generous, conscious human, then the more money means the more impact, the more alignment, the more good you can do, not just for yourself, but for the world. And the real shift is going to happen when we stop apologizing for our desires and we start owning them, okay? Wealth is not something to shrink for. It is something to wield wisely. And that is going to require unlearning of generations of fear, of shame, of guilt, and of programming around what it means to be a wealthy woman. Because this idea that wealth makes you selfish or greedy or less spiritual, it's false. It is literally just a false narrative. I want you to ask yourself, who actually benefits from you believing that? Who stays in power when you play small? And who gets served by you staying broke, overworked, underpaid, stuck in guilt for wanting more? Definitely not you. So today, I want you to make a different choice. I want you to decide that your wealth gets to be the source of expansion. I want you to decide that your success is your service. Okay? So, while we're here and while we are just going super deep into reframing that limiting belief, I'm going to go ahead and shine some light on this other limiting belief and rewrite the script for the second, probably biggest one I had to get over to jump into on my own journey. And that, my friends, is the fear of being seen. Now, I know that this one hits home for so many of you. And for me, I honestly can't even pinpoint where this fear of being seen for me even stemmed from. And God, I was like the shyest little girl. I just was afraid. I was timid. I was insecure. It might not sound like it now, but if you knew me in a different part of my timeline, you would remember that shy girl. And it's like the fear of being seen to me, it's this quiet resistance to visibility. It's this inner kind of tug of war that you've got going on. It's like, what will they think? Or who am I to say this out loud? Like, I could have easily said that about this episode. Like, who am I to say this shit out loud? But I'm doing it. I feel like it needs to be heard, really. What if like I mess up and I get judged or I fail? Like fuck, fail and fail faster, my friends. The truth I had to realize is you can't lead from the shadows. You cannot make an impact hiding behind old stories. And when you actually do zoom out and you stop focusing on anyone outside of you, you realize the magnitude of impact you are born to have. And all of those fears that seemed so big before and so in the way and so loud, they start to fall away. Because when you stop trying to fit into places that like never saw your full expression, you finally decide to take up space, and you don't just speak, you actually resonate. You become magnetic to those people that are meant for you and the ones who get it. And the ones who don't, guess what? They were never meant to be in your audience anyways. When you zoom out, when you take the focus off who might have misunderstood you, and instead tune into that impact you're here to have, like I said, the fear fades away. It changes the lens. You know, when you speak your truth, the world shifts. You connect to everything and everyone that was always meant for you. But until you have that realization, you're gonna stay stuck in the illusion. You're gonna stay in this identity of, you know, I'm not ready, or who am I to do this, or I'll be judged. And that, to me, all of those kind of fall under this umbrella of the fear of being seen, which is really just fear of, you know, stepping into your true power. I had a really, really beautiful teacher on my journey in Australia, my Zentai Shiatsu teacher. He's actually the founder, really awesome, beautiful guy. And he described fear as false evidence appearing real. And I loved that because it's so true. Fear literally only exists in our mind, okay? The more we feed it, the more we feed that fearful thought, the bigger it grows, the louder it gets. And guess what? The louder it gets, it's gonna show up into your reality. But on the other side of that fear, okay, is your freedom, your clarity, and your power. If it's false evidence appearing real, it's not actually real yet, right? We're making it real. We are the ones that bring that thought into our reality. And one of my biggest, missions, I would say, in this work is to help others reach that other side, to get to the other side of fear. Because fear is just holding you back and keeping you small. To know not just intellectually, but deeply that you're the creator, that you get to pull the strings of your own reality with your thoughts, with your energy and your words and your vision. It is honestly one of the most incredible gifts you can claim. And like I said, it is why I'm here, why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I pushed through the fear of being seen so I could be here for you guys today. When the truth lands in someone else's body, it creates this gorgeous ripple effect, okay? This beautiful impact. If I impact one soul off of this episode, that person then resonates deeper to impact the next person they touch. So I don't directly touch. Can you see the ripple effect? I won't go into ripple effects. But basically what I'm saying is I want everyone my energy touches to feel that power. So if you've been carrying that belief, that one wanting wealth, being seen, or even just showing up loudly makes you greedy or selfish or just too much, I want you to pause and I want you to ask yourself again, who benefits from me believing that? Because, my friend, it is not you. And it's not the people you're here to serve or inspire or even uplift either. You get to choose again. You get to choose the version of you who owns her light, who walks in her truth, who speaks the fuck up, okay? Not from ego, but from purpose. Because your voice and your vision, they are not too much. They're actually exactly right for you, okay? And I'm gonna leave you there because I feel like I've gotten really passionate. Fear of being seen and, that wealth is bad are no longer limiting beliefs that anybody who listened to this episode is going to have. As always, thank you so very much for tuning in. If this episode did crack something open for you, shift a belief, gave you that soul deep, fuck yes moment, I am so truly glad that we have found each other. It means the world to me to share this space and this energy with you all. It really does. If it resonated or you know someone that could benefit from hearing this episode, please go ahead and subscribe and rate it and share it. It really helps it get out there and get it out to more people and to slash more limiting beliefs, because the ripple effect is going to start with you. So as always, I'm going to love and leave you all there. I will catch you next week. Bye.